The Middle Ages, World History and Middle Ages. This is about a period after the 13th century and the developments happening in the European region during this period. The background to the Middle Ages: the decline of the Roman Empire, rise of Northern Europe, new forms of government, heavy Romanization, that is, change in religion, language, laws, architecture, government. Latin medium ervium means Middle Age is a source of English word medieval. It has come from the Latin word medium avium means Middle Ages, and the English word medieval has been derived from the same word. So all these Middle Age, medieval means one and the same period. The period of Middle Age. In the history of Europe, the Middle Ages or the medieval period lasted from the 5th to the 15th century. It began with the fall of Western Roman Empire and merged into Renaissance. The period of 14th century was considered to be the beginning of Renaissance, and the Middle Ages merged into Renaissance with the start of Renaissance, and also called the Age of Discovery. The Middle Ages is the middle period of the three traditional divisions of Western history: classical antiquity, the medieval period, and the modern period. The medieval period is itself subdivided into early, high, and late Middle Ages. The early Middle Ages, also known as Dark Ages, lasting from 500 CE to 1000 CE. Scholars named this as a time when the forces of darkness overwhelmed the forces of light. Rise of influence of barbarians, as Roman emperors had granted barbarian mercenaries land with the Roman Empire in return for military service, and it was these barbarians who eventually became new rulers. Period of change in Western Europe, as barbarians were migrating into areas given up by Romans. As more barbarians moved westward, other tribes were forced to move. Groups categorized by language and little else: Celtic, Gauls, Britons, they were known by these. Germanic, Goths, Frank, Vandals, Saxons, different group of people, and Slavic, Wends. There was an influence of church during this period. Christian church has become an important political, economic, spiritual, and cultural force in the Europe. Leading officials of church were the Pope and the Petr. Banning of heresy, holding beliefs that contradict the official religion. Conversion by force, all these things were happening during that period. Eventually in 11th century, church split into two independent branches: Eastern Orthodox, also known as Greek, based in Constantinople, and Roman Catholic in Rome. So this was a period of change which happened during this period, and the influence of church. Then there was the rise of Islam. Religious beliefs in the Eastern Empire and Iran were in flux during the late 6th and the 7th centuries. Judaism was an active faith, and at least one Arab political leader converted to it. Christianity had active missions competing with the Persian Zoroastrianism in seeking converts, especially among residents of Arabian Peninsula. All these strands came together with the emergence of Islam in Arabia during the lifetime of Muhammad. After his death, Islamic forces conquered much of Eastern Empire and Persia, starting with Syria in 634 to 635. After reaching Egypt in 640 to 641, Persia between 637 and 642, North Africa in later 7th century, and the Iberian Peninsula in 711. So there was a rise of Islam also during this period, which was also concurrent with the rise of Christianity. There was a birth of modern language, development of Middle Ages, new language born through migration, resettlement, conflict and changes. Old English, also known as Anglo-Saxon, began to incorporate words from both Latin and Old French, Old German, Old Norse. Roots of contemporary Spanish, Italian and other Romanic languages were formed. High Middle Ages. During this period, a new royal dynasty called Capetians developed in France. System of primogeniture, where its eldest son inherited everything instead of dividing land or property or wealth, was developed. Lords and knights, however, had little loyalty and began competing more fiercely for land, power, influence, and control. Peace equal to a set of decrees issued in Peace of God issued in 1918 and CE that prohibited stealing church property, asset clerics, peasants, and women with the threat of excommunication from church, was set to protect the unarmed population by limiting warfare in the countryside. Truce of God set in 1027 CE and outlawed all fighting from Thursday to Monday morning on important festival days and during religious dates. Truce encouraged the idea that the only compact pleasing God was in the defense of Christendom, idea of righteousness of holy war. So all these things happened during the High Middle Ages. And in the late Middle Ages there was Black Death, which was a black plague which wiped out a huge population of the Europe. Also there was the European famine which rose in the early 13th century. This killed about a third of Europe's population, an estimated 34 million people. And many inventions and creations happened during the Middle Ages. Roger Bacon invented gunpowder. There was accounting invented. There was printing press invented. There was Joan of Arc. She was played a crucial role during the 100 Years of War. The 100 Years of War between France and England took place during the Middle Ages. So the lot of inventions and creations also happened, and the major events of Middle Ages were the fall of Western Roman Empire during 476 AD, the Treaty of Verentum during 843 AD, the Battle of Hastings 1066 AD, Declaration of Magna Carta in 1215 AD, the Great Famine, the 100 Years' War, the Black Death, and all these main events happened, which you can note down as happened during the Middle Ages.